A streamer downloads a random game on his phone. 10 minutes later, he accidentally kills a girl. Then the game sends him a message. Why did you hit her? When he looks up to understand what is happening, the girl slowly stands up. Because she was never human in the first place. She was the ghost from the game. And now the game has only one objective: survive. Earlier that night, everything seemed completely normal. Rain poured down as Do-yeon ran for his life. A ghost chased him through a dark hallway. He rushed into a restroom, slammed the stall door shut, and leaned against it, breathing hard. When he looked up, the ghost was right in front of him. He screamed. Then he tore off the VR headset. The chat exploded with laughter. Choi Do-yeon, now in his third year as a variety game streamer, rubbed his sore back and admitted VR horror might be a bad life choice. His viewers, as usual, enjoyed watching him suffer more than watching him win. Somehow, that was his brand, and somehow, it paid the bills. Despite the panic, he cleared the stage in one try. A viewer named Yuri donated 20,000 won and asked if he would have stayed longer if the ghost had been pretty. Do-yeon thanked him and said absolutely not. Pretty or not, a ghost is still a ghost. And if a ghost looks beautiful, that just means you're already possessed. He was about to end the stream when someone asked about his collaboration with Sagi. Do-yeon admitted he hadn't been able to reach him. Apparently, Sagi had found some incredible new game and then vanished. It was ironic. Sagi had once encouraged him to stream without fear, even when his family opposed it. Now that Do-yeon was doing well, they were more supportive than Sagi ever was. Worried, he decided to stop by Sagi's place on the way home to gather information. He ended the stream and tried calling again. Still unreachable. Their concern started to feel real. He considered reporting him missing. Then his mom called. He reminded her he had already told her when he'd leave work and said he would be home by dawn. On the way, he stepped into a restroom and checked his phone. Stajin had finally replied, just a link. No explanation. Do-yeon called again. Nothing. Confused, he opened the link. It led to a ghost-themed dating game he had never seen before. The description mentioned spirits lingering in the world because of unresolved attachments. While walking in the rain, he installed it. Sagi wouldn't ghost him through a ghost game. Probably. Thunder cracked across the sky. The installation finished, even flashing a warning message. He ignored it. The matching system activated. Rain fell harder. His GPS suddenly glitched, giving incorrect directions. It kept telling him to turn left. Over and over, he assumed it was a bug. But the instructions wouldn't stop. The atmosphere shifted. The road felt wrong. Uneasy, he made a U-turn and tried closing the app. Just as suddenly, he arrived at the indicated location. The chaos stopped. Then he hit something. A girl lay on the ground in front of his car. His heart dropped. He rushed to her, shaking her shoulders, calling out. She didn't respond. A notification appeared on his screen, offering strange and unsettling options. Before he could react, his phone froze. A distorted sound burst from it. Then it asked why he had killed her. Do-yeon slowly looked up. A ghost stood before him. Startled, he dropped his phone. The ghost stepped closer, asking why he had let her die. When she begged for help, he did the only thing he could think of. He ran. The game notification told him to run. That was when he understood she wasn't human. As he fled, another notification appeared. Affection level decreasing. The ghost's expression changed. She looked hurt, then angry. She said no one ever wanted to see her. She just wanted to live. Do-yeon scrambled back to his car, but the door wouldn't open. Panic set in. He turned, her hand wrapped around his neck and slammed him to the ground. Her strength made no sense. As he struggled, her appearance shifted. She became beautiful. And he remembered what he had said earlier on stream. If a ghost looks beautiful, you're already possessed. For a brief second, her face showed unbearable sadness. Then headlights flashed. A truck barreled forward. And it ran over Do-yeon. Tears came into Do-yeon's eyes. His bones felt like they were shattering and his insides twisting. It was unbearable pain. When he shouted, a man came to check on him. But Do-yeon pushed him away with his elbow. The man felt that helping strangers only brought trouble. Do-yeon nervously checked his phone. The game notified him that he had been reincarnated and that there was an ongoing date. If he didn't wish to continue, he should leave the area. Do-yeon froze when he saw his personal information posted in the game. The man asked if he was okay, but Do-yeon ran away. Returning home, he convinced himself he was just seeing things. He was afraid that installing a game had caused all this. He hadn't been able to sleep because of streaming and editing, so he thought he should go home and rest. The GPS started giving directions again. Do-yeon grew afraid. There was no way this could be real. He saw the ghost again and quickly stopped his car. He had only been playing games and streaming in his room. He had never done anything to make enemies. Do-yeon started regretting everything and shouted for an explanation. A notification appeared on his phone. He looked at it in horror and saw his current situation posted in the game. He convinced himself it was just a game. It would be fine. He had played visual novels on stream before. The game dropped 4 options and Do-yeon realized that as long as he built up enough affection, he should be safe. Even if he picked the safest choices, he would get an average outcome. He stopped himself from panicking and decided to get it over with. Do-yeon pushed himself forward because he was good at games. He stepped out of the car, called her, and placed an umbrella over her head. Nervously, he said he wasn't a suspicious person. He didn't know what was happening, but he wanted help. Finally, he told her he would take her home. Do-yeon chose the third option. He did it, though he was terrified. He wanted to run away. As the ghost kept staring at him, he thought it was the wrong choice. She turned to him, came closer, and asked if he could see her. Confused, Do-yeon nodded. Suddenly, the ghost hugged him, and he fell down. She begged him not to leave her behind. She didn't want that anymore. Confused, Do-yeon stayed silent. The ghost started crying loudly. His choice slightly increased her favorability. Her condition stabilized, but fear blinded him from noticing. Do-yeon placed his hand on her head. Do-yeon lifted her head, then apologized. It was completely drenched in rain, and at this rate, he might suffer from hypothermia. He asked her to move aside for a moment. Inside the car, Do-yeon was confused. Somehow, he had managed to get her in, but now it had become a free date. If this was a dating sim, there should be choices. The truck that had hit Do-yeon earlier passed near them. Stopping on the highway was unsafe. The game wasn't important right now. First, Do-yeon would move to a park. Then once she calmed down, they could talk again. The door on her side wasn't closing, so he decided to quickly fix it. He closed the door while calming himself, but his hand slipped. His phone fell and Do-yeon fell into her lap. He was in serious trouble. When he looked up, he realized this wasn't just a simple mistake. The ghost girl asked if that was the reason she had been brought there. Do-yeon grew nervous and began explaining. He thought he was definitely going to lose his life. Since she couldn't close the door herself, he had only tried to help. His over-explanation brought a smile to her eyes. Do-yeon apologized and asked if they could move to the nearest rest stop because it felt dangerous there. She stared at him, and he quickly added that if she didn't want to move, staying was fine too. She laughed sweetly, and Do-yeon fell silent. She laughed because she felt relieved. She had been worried the first person she met might be a weirdo. She introduced herself as Hae-yeon and thanked Do-yeon for the ride. She already knew about him as well. Yeon thanked him again. It was only a slight detour for Do-yeon, but Yeon had never thought she would get another chance to talk to someone like that. She had already given up hope. Full of curiosity, Do-yeon asked what had happened and why she was on the road. He added that if it was too hard to talk about, she didn't have to. Yeon said she didn't know either. She had been taken away by a man she had never seen before. When she opened her eyes, she was on the highway. At first, she didn't realize she had lost consciousness. She thought she was lucky to have survived. Afraid she might run into that man again, she ran along the road. As time passed, she noticed something was wrong. No matter how much she called for help, people just passed by. Even after walking for days, the road never seemed to end. That was when she realized she had passed on and couldn't leave that place. She was alone. When Do-yeon first spoke to her, she couldn't believe it. Yeon apologized, saying it had been so long since she talked to someone that she must have embarrassed herself. The thought of possibly seeing her family again made her tear up. She smiled and thanked him. Nervous, Do-yeon didn't know how to comfort her. He asked what if her family couldn't see her. Yoon replied she would stay a little longer then. His shocked reaction made her embarrassed. She asked him to deliver her final message to her family, and Do-yeon agreed. As they continued driving, Do-yeon wondered if Yoon was really just a character in a game. He had many questions, but he truly wished she could meet her family. Then a notification appeared. The date was ending. It happened suddenly. Before he could react, Yoon began fading. She felt sorry after everything he had done for her. She said she'd only regained her senses at night. Pushing herself, she asked for a little more help. Do-yeon interrupted, saying he would be at his parents' house until tomorrow, so he had time. It felt like there was still so much left unsaid. He told her he would meet her again tonight at the same time and place. He asked what she thought. Yoon smiled and said she would be waiting. The midnight date ended. The game calculated Do-yeon's romance score. He obtained 80 points, which reduced his death penalty. Their romance rank was B. They earned 40 LP. The long night ended, and morning came. Do-yeon was shocked seeing the LP and affinity results. The emptiness left behind felt vivid, an unknown hollowness. Thoughts flooded his mind. Countless questions left him suffocated with frustration and unease. Then he received a text from his Hyun telling him to visit. It might be the only key to unlocking the mystery. Do-yeon left in a hurry and tried calling him, but his phone was switched off again. He parked and opened the door to his Hyun's room. His Hyun wasn't there. Inside, documents were stuck to the wall. Do-yeon grew nervous when he saw a missing person report of Hae-yeon. He had only installed the game. Behind him, a wounded girl was standing. Do-yeon was confused why someone who just stays home playing games would have those. Shocked, Do-yeon looked up and saw reports of murderers and missing persons. Do-yeon had seen some of these articles on the news. Do-yeon realized people who were unjustly murdered became ghosts and appeared as characters. Do-yeon saw a notebook. He was shocked as he read that each ghost appears at the place where they died or a location that holds strong memories for them. As long as they have a physical body, they cannot stray too far from this place. Although there are slight variations, wandering spirits disappear during times of strong positive energy. Suddenly, the fire siren started ringing. A ghost entered. Do-yeon grew nervous. The ghost was murmuring something. Her affection level was hatred, so the game suggested him to escape. The ghost kept murmuring while moving forward. Afraid, Do-yeon couldn't move. The ghost found the gas and it led to a big explosion. Water started pouring from the fire suppressor system. Injured, Doyeon kept asking himself why his brother sent him the link to this game. Doyeon barely opened his eyes. He saw an apology note in the notebook as Yeon was asking him for a favor. Tears came to his eyes. The ghost raised a tool saying Doyeon was the reason they all died. Then she attacked him. The game notified him that he had departed and he was reincarnated again. Inside the car, Doyeon was afraid. He nervously touched his arm and asked why this was happening to him. Doyeon called him again, but he didn't answer the phone. It all confused Doyeon. He looked at his phone as time passed without him being able to do anything. From this, Doyeon learned a few things. The game can't be deleted. Even if Doyeon throws away his phone, it comes back. There was even a limit to his lives. At first, he wasn't sure, but after looking at the UI design and the 2 missing hearts, he guessed those were his remaining lives. He was mad about this dating sim where he bet his life, and if he told anyone, they would think Doyeon was crazy. If he could get that notebook, he might be able to find more information, but there was no way he could go there. Then Doyeon remembered he had to meet Yeon, and sitting around like this wouldn't change anything. As he promised to help, Doyeon decided to move for now, and somehow things would work out. Doyeon went to Yoon's house and asked a woman about it. The woman informed him they had moved out and it had been a year. The woman said a father and his 2 daughters used to live there, but after the daughter went missing, they eventually left. Doyeon asked what happened to them and for their contact information. The woman didn't know and told Doyeon it was better if he stopped looking for them, as they had finally gotten their life together and decided to start fresh with the younger daughter. While walking away, Doyeon wondered if the residents knew Yeon has left this world and coming there was meaningless then. Because Yeon could only move at night, Doyeon thought that if he met her family, he might be able to take her to them somehow. Doyeon's mom called. Doyeon answered and informed his mother he couldn't make it today. His mother scolded him as Doyeon had promised her. Yeon was already there and his dad was coming too, but Doyeon was avoiding this. Doyeon said something urgent came up and he would definitely go tomorrow. Then something caught Doyeon's eye. He hung up the call. It was Yeon's missing report, and he tore it down. He thought about the notebook saying that wandering spirits disappear in the morning, but the ghost that appeared in the abandoned house showed up during the day. He found out the residents didn't know how Yeon has departed. Doyeon thought if Yeon's body was found, would she be able to move freely? Walking near the car, Doyeon realized it was best to meet Yeon and ask her directly. And if they found her, the family would be contacted. Inside the car, he let out a shocked sigh. It was already late. Doyeon said it would have been nice if they had found something. On the other side, Yeon was waiting for him. She eagerly tried to stop every car that passed on the highway, but it wasn't Doyeon. Yeon believed their promise that they would meet. Yeon decided not to rush and believed Doyeon would be there soon. Time passed and even started raining. Sadly, sitting in the rain, Yeon suddenly heard a voice. It was Doyeon apologizing with his umbrella. Doyeon said he only meant to take a short nap, but he didn't hear his alarm. Yeon felt relieved. The midnight date was about to begin, and she came near him as she thought Doyeon wasn't coming. Doyeon nervously smiled and said he would come earlier next time. Then they got into the car and left. Inside the car, Doyeon asked her why she was sitting weirdly. She replied she was so embarrassed and wanted to crawl into a hole. Doyeon said he went to Yoon's house earlier that day. Yeon happily asked if they were doing well and if he talked to them about her. Yoon's excitement faded when she learned they had moved a year ago and someone else was living in the house now. Yeon apologized for making Doyeon go there for nothing. Doyeon said they should go to a nearby convenience store and talk because they could try contacting her parents directly, and if that didn't work, they could report it to the police. They should at least try everything. Doyeon told her not to worry and that he would help her. Yeon appreciated it but asked why he was helping her so much. She had nothing to give him back and Doyeon could have just ignored her. Doyeon thought he should just delete the game but couldn't say it. Then he was about to speak, a notification came. He grew nervous. It gave him 2 options to answer the question with a 10-second timer. Seconds passed. Yeon was listening. He nervously pushed himself. Shy, Doyeon looked outside the window and said it was because Yeon was his type. He chose the first option and it brought Yeon's smile back. Yeon asked if Doyeon meant a ghost fetish. Doyeon quickly said it was because a beautiful person was crying, so he wanted to help and she just looked sad. Then Yeon asked him. He didn't go there on purpose and said they would arrive at their destination shortly. It shocked Doyeon. Then they reached a motel. Doyeon pointed at a convenience store and said Yeon picked the nearest convenience store and came there. While walking, Yeon apologized and said Doyeon suddenly brought her to a place like this. She said people help others just to demand money from their families or ask for something shady. If it weren't for Doyeon, she would still be wandering the streets alone and probably be pushed away again. It shocked Doyeon and he nervously explained he had never thought about something like that. Yi was kidding and said Doyeon's reaction was funny, so she kept doing it. Doyeon told her to stop teasing him. Yeon felt a little more at ease now. Doyeon seemed like that kind of person. Then Yeon switched and started talking to herself. The convenience store was closed. Then they decided to move somewhere else for now. They turned and instead of going back, they went to the motel so they could have shelter from the rain and have a chat. Inside the room, Yeon first jumped on the bed as it was soft. Doyeon asked her if she came there just for the bed. Yeon said she missed the bed a lot. All she could see was an endless highway and hear the loud cries of deer. Yet the thing she missed the most was the bed. She said Do-yeon should lie down too. Do-yeon stopped her and told her not to say things that could be misunderstood. While taking off his jacket, Do-yeon said he learned something. Ghosts with bodies left behind tend to linger where they had departed, and then they disappear when the sun rises. Do-yeon took the flyer and showed it to Yeon and said the residents told him Yeon went missing 2 years ago, and even when Do-yeon called the missing persons center, they said she was still considered missing. Then Do-yeon asked her what happened. Yeon didn't really know either. She was heading home after finishing her part-time job as usual when a car passed on her. When Yeon barely regained consciousness, it was after the accident had already happened. A man, staggering as if drunk, got out of the car and was making a phone call to someone. Then when he saw that Yeon was still alive, he slowly approached her and pressed her down until she passed out. He put her in his car and took her somewhere. He had a rose tattoo on the back of his hand. Outside, she could see an abandoned warehouse and some container boxes. Then Yeon stopped and said she didn't remember much. Do-yeon said it must have been a very urgent situation. Then he asked if she knew that person and Yeon refused, saying she saw him for the first time. It angered Do-yeon because drunk driving caused the accident, and out of fear of punishment, he panicked and tried to cover up what had happened. Do-yeon stood up and said at first they should check satellite maps for abandoned warehouses. If they pinpointed the location to some extent, they might be able to find her body. Do-yeon said they would catch the criminal together. A murderer should pay for their crimes, and if Yoon's family helped, things would go much more smoothly. Then Do-yeon asked if she remembered their contact information because it wasn't written on the missing person poster. She didn't remember as a lot of time had passed. Then Yeon asked if her family had stopped looking for her and if she only made them suffer more. Do-yeon said it wouldn't happen and sat down, saying Yeon's family went through so much trying to find her. They even moved because living there reminded them of her so much that they couldn't bear it. The neighbors all said her family was really close. Just from hearing the story, Do-yeon could tell that Yoon's family missed her and Yeon wasn't the only one who wanted to see her family again. Even if things didn't go as planned, Do-yeon would help her. Yeon smiled and asked if he went around asking all those questions on purpose. It was kind of touching. Do-yeon apologized and thanked her at the same time. Do-yeon said it was late and you should send a text message first. Do-yeon had increased Yoon's affection level. Do-yeon asked if her father's name was Habyomta. It had just popped up on KakaoTalk. Yoon was amazed and wanted to see it too. She raised her hand but slipped and fell onto Do-yeon. They kept looking at each other. Then Yeon laughed. Do-yeon asked her to get down because she was heavy. Yeon teased him and said his ears were turning red. Do-yeon turned his head and got up. Do-yeon told her eyes changed when she teased him. Yeon apologized. Do-yeon said he would go wash up first. He got rained on and couldn't shower for 2 days, so he felt gross. Do-yeon said Yeon's family would be surprised, so they should think about what to write in the message first. Yeon agreed. Then Yeon went onto the bed, as it had been so long since she felt this comfortable. She kept teasing without realizing it. Yeon found being together fun and she wished morning would never come. On the other side, Do-yeon turned on the shower and started bathing. Outside, he got a call. Hearing the ringtone, Yeon went to see it. The call was from Sak-yeon. The scene shifted to Sakshi. He was eagerly waiting for Do-yeon to answer the call. Suddenly, blood appeared. Sakshi was afraid. Someone called him. He turned and saw a ghost asking him why he ran away. Sakshi told her she was pretty and that they were supposed to go on a date. She asked why he was running away. Do-yeon tried to call Hyung back, but he didn't answer the phone. After seeing Do-yeon calling Hyung over and over again, Yeon said she should have told him earlier. Do-yeon said it was okay. If nothing was wrong, they'll call back eventually. Then they turned off the lights, watching a show. Yoon confirmed if Do-yeon was okay even if he lay on the floor. Since Do-yeon sat for long periods, he sometimes slept on the floor when his back hurt. Yoon was relieved and asked what kind of work Do-yeon did and when he started seeing ghosts. As Do-yeon said he was on his way to his family home, she thought his family was his shaman lineage. Do-yeon denied it and said he's a game streamer. He grew up with no connection to that world at all. Then he told Yeon she was actually the first dead person he had ever seen. Yoon was happy because she was his first. Yoon wanted to visit Do-yeon's apartment as she was curious how Do-yeon did his broadcast. Do-yeon said it was small and messy, so it was kind of embarrassing. That made Yeon want to go even more. The sun started rising and Do-yeon said once his business settled, he'll invite her over then. This would be Yeon's first time visiting a guy's place. Yeon started disappearing, then she smiled as she wanted to ask one more thing. Do-yeon was listening. She said, tomorrow too, and disappeared. Do-yeon looked for her, and midnight ended. Their romance score was being calculated, and their romance rank was A. They also gained 60 LP. Do-yeon went to his home. Outside the door, Do-yeon was hesitating to open it, thinking his dad must think he was pathetic for expecting anything from a guy like him. Do-yeon thought he was acting all high and mighty in front of Yeon, and now he was hesitating. He decided to eat quickly and go back. Do-yeon knocked and opened the door. He grew nervous when he saw his dad. Then Do-yeon asked him if he had been doing well, but his father didn't respond. When Do-yeon's mom saw him, she told him to wait as his brother was coming soon. After they sat to eat, Do-yeon's father asked Hyung how his life as a resident was and told him not to let his guard down and to keep working hard because becoming a doctor wasn't easy. Do-yeon felt sad. Suddenly, his mom came and scolded Do-yeon's father for putting pressure on someone who was already doing well. Hyung said it was fine because his dad had gone through it too, so he was probably saying it from experience. His mother said Hyun had to acknowledge dad's personality, and having at least the eldest son there made her feel at ease. Then she asked Do-yeon how he was these days, shocked. Then he nervously said he was managing somehow. 3 years ago, he ran away from this house. Do-yeon knew that he had no right to return there. Do-yeon tied his shoelace. From behind, Hyung asked where he was going. Do-yeon acted like he was going to the convenience store. Then Hyung said 3 years was long enough. It was time for Do-yeon to get himself together. Do-yeon told him this had nothing to do with Hyun. Do-yeon opened the door and said he'll handle it himself. Then he got out of the apartment. Do-yeon froze. Hyun's father's reply had arrived that he was sick of this kind of contact and to please leave their family alone. They were living just fine. He quickly ran outside his shop. Do-yeon thought about gas money, motel fees, and even a shovel. This monkey might really have to survive on cup noodles. Then he left. While driving the car, Do-yeon thought when a date ends, LP is given based on the relationship score, and this LP can be used in the shop. If they didn't have enough, they couldn't even check the usage of items they couldn't buy. Among the purchasable items, there was a magnifying glass that seemed useful in this situation. Then Do-yeon decided to use it. Then he arrived at his destination. He looked up and saw the abandoned warehouse. There were 3 warehouses near the place where he met Hae-yoon that had containers. Even in photos from 2 years ago, this was the only place with containers. The problem was he was not supposed to find anything with just one photo they gave him as a hint. It was fine because having something was better than nothing. He confidently decided to search the whole mountain, as it wasn't that big. The sun started fading, and Do-yeon was totally exhausted. It was impossible to find a tree with a hole in a place full of trees. He grew confused about being the one to find it. Stepping forward, Do-yeon thought to convince Hae-yoon's family instead. If the bereaved family got involved, things would work out somehow. This was all just Do-yeon's own theory. He wanted to meet Yeon one more time. Then Do-yeon's foot hit a piece of wood again, and he fell down. Do-yeon thought he really needed to start exercising. His legs were shaking just from moving a little. Then he remembered Yeon. He was about to lose consciousness, but he pushed himself to stand up. He stepped forward, thinking why he was going this far. Then Do-yeon let out his sight and checked his phone as he found the tree. Do-yeon started digging. Yoon was just someone Do-yeon met for the first time 2 days ago. If he wanted to delete the game, there should be other ways. He felt something down there and froze. Then he started digging with his hands. Do-yeon grew nervous when he saw a skeleton. He didn't want Yeon to cry alone in loneliness. Do-yeon turned and saw Yeon there. Yeon came near, saying it was him. Do-yeon was shocked by her appearance. Yeon said she woke up and was back to normal. Yoon looked down and saw Do-yeon in a mess. Yeon asked if something had happened to him. It was dangerous there, so Do-yeon told her to go over there and talk. Then Yeon saw her body. Do-yeon felt nervous when Yeon found out he was the one who found her. It was strange. She woke up in the forest next to the road, and this was the first time she'd appeared there, so she was confused. Yeon was where she was dead. Yoon touched Do-yeon's face and told him not to make that face. He turned fully red, and Yoon said it was not his fault. Yoon stopped him from crying as it hurt her heart more. Do-yeon felt so powerless. After that, the police started the investigation and asked Do-yeon some questions. Someone asked Do-yeon if he was the first person who reported this. The man showed his card and introduced himself as Detective Han Young-chil from the Violent Crimes Unit. Young-chil wanted to hear more details and asked if he could ask Do-yeon a few questions. Do-yeon agreed. The detective had just come back from the scene and had a lot of questions. He heard that Do-yeon was passing by, saw some strange marks, dug it up just in case, and there was a body. Given Young-chil's profession, it was a little hard to believe. It was hard to call it a coincidence, since Do-yeon even brought a shovel separately. The detective asked Do-yeon why he came to the mountain with a shovel at such a late hour and said the investigation would be done separately at the station. So this was just simple curiosity. Do-yeon had only dug up the exact spot where the body was in the wide mountain. It made Do-yeon angry. Young-chil said it would be more convincing if Do-yeon had committed the crime and felt guilty, so he reported it himself. Do-yeon said he felt bad for Hae-yeon. It brought doubt to the detective's eyes because they hadn't identified her yet. He asked Do-yeon if the dead body told him her name too. Do-yeon thought he should show him the game, but the detective would think he was crazy. Behind him, Yeon kept saying Do-yeon helped her. Do-yeon tried to say something when an old man ran toward them while shouting. Yoon looked and recognized her dad. The old man showed Do-yeon his phone, asking if he was the man who contacted him, and informed him he had found Yeon's body. Do-yeon asked the old man for some time because Yeon wanted to see her father. The old man grabbed Do-yeon's hoodie while asking about Yeon. Do-yeon tried to tell him Yoon was next to them, but the detective interrupted and introduced himself to Yoon's father. The detective told the old man that he didn't know how Do-yeon contacted him, but the victim's identity hadn't been confirmed yet. He apologized and said unless he was a related party, access to the scene was restricted. She touched her father, saying she was there, but her father couldn't hear her. Yeon sorrowfully said she had walked alone for 2 years. Because her family must be looking for her, even though she was dead, she couldn't leave. If her dad couldn't see her, Yeon didn't want to be left alone again, and Do-yeon held her hand. Then Doyeon said Yan was still in this spot. Then Doyeon said that while he was driving on the highway, a battered, distressed woman suddenly stood in front of his car, and it later turned out that she was no longer alive. This was the first time he had been in a situation like this, so he was terrified. He had never seen anything like a ghost in his life. He tried to run away instead of helping, but the ghost was crying and begging for help. Her name was Haeyeon. Doyeon wanted to help her, so he came all the way here. Doyeon didn't know what to say to make them believe him. He could see dead people. The detective didn't believe him, but the old man asked if Yoon was really there. Doyeon nodded and put his hand on Yoon's shoulder. The old man fell silent. The old man went to his car for a moment and showed Doyeon a doll, saying it was a doll that Yoon really loved. Even after she grew up, she couldn't sleep without this old, tattered doll. He had been carrying it around ever since his daughter disappeared, believing she would come back someday. To confirm Doyeon wasn't lying, the old man told him to ask Yeon the doll's name. Yeon slowly brought the doll closer to herself with magic, and it made everyone nervous. It stood beside Doyeon and called it Manya. When Doyeon looked, Yoon was crying while hugging her doll. At the station, the investigation was over. When Doyeon went out, he thought he was going to suffocate. Shocked, Doyeon saw Yoon's father waiting outside. The man brought coffee with him. While sitting on the chair, the old man thanked him for helping Yeon and said he would definitely repay Doyeon. It was something Doyeon wanted to do. The old man said Yeon was a diligent child born under a worthless father and only suffered hardships. She couldn't even find peace, and it felt like his heart was breaking apart. The man started crying and asked what had happened to his daughter. Doyeon told him Yoon was asking if it would be okay for the old man to relay a message. The old man agreed, and Yoon said she was okay. She was worried about her dad and her younger sibling, who would be left behind if she disappeared. It was obvious what their family would be like without her. She had to at least say a final goodbye so her father would not keep looking for her. She was a little glad her father somehow endured and persevered. If he kept enduring like he was now and thought of her sometimes, that would be enough. Yeon thanked him, saying she was happy to be her dad's daughter. They say there is no greater disrespect than passing away before one's parents. While crying, Yeon asked if she were reborn, it would be okay to be born as her dad's daughter again. Her father grabbed the doll and cried a lot, saying he would be happy to be her dad again. Doyeon sadly bowed his head. Then Doyeon got a notification that Yoon was on the Freedom Road. Her soul was ready to return, but her heart still held lingering attachments. Whether Doyeon stayed with her was entirely his choice. Doyeon stood up. At the same time, he might regret that choice. Yeon asked him what she should do. She didn't want to go like that. The game asked Doyeon if he would ask her out on a date. Doyeon kept staring at her. He didn't know what he was thinking. In truth, Doyeon didn't want her to go, so he said Yeon had told him she would invite him to her place once the incident was over. They also needed to catch the culprit. For that, they needed time, and Doyeon still needed Yoon's help. Yeon also said she didn't want to leave yet. Doyeon asked her to come to his house. Yoon's father was clueless. Doyeon wondered if this was a good decision. He was being impulsive because of his emotions, but he didn't want to part ways like this. They entered Doyeon's apartment. Doyeon said his house was small and dirty, so he was a bit worried. It was okay because Yoon's house was also small and old. Then they entered. Yoon was amazed. Doyeon's house was cleaner than she expected. Yoon said she looked forward to living together. And this marked the beginning of their peculiar cohabitation. Poltergeist, a phenomenon where objects move or make noise due to an invisible source. Yeon did her best to open the door. She used her other hand and opened it. She was surprised as she forced it and fell down. Her head hurt, but she asked Doyeon if he saw it. Right now, she couldn't even lift things properly, but if she tried hard enough, she should be able to make at least a meal. Doyeon thought ghosts usually passed through walls, but it seemed their limit was only being able to move things temporarily. Doyeon gave her his hand and said Yeon wanted to help with housework, but he could cook for himself, so she didn't have to worry. Yeon still said there might be things she could do to help because she just wanted to contribute in some way. And she heard Doyeon mostly ate ramen. Doyeon appreciated the sentiment and said they should be a bit careful regardless. He told Yeon not to overdo it, and if she needed anything, she should tell him. It might be difficult to go see her family since Doyeon was the only one who could see Yeon. He told her not to feel burdened, just be comfortable. Even if there were inconvenient parts, they would figure them out gradually. Shy Yeon nodded, bashful, thinking about the moments going forward together. Thinking about it, it wasn't like cohabitation. From then on, they were living together. While cleaning the mess, Doyeon thought that after the body was discovered, Yeon no longer returned to the highway. Since she hadn't disappeared even during the day, she should be able to walk around without worry now. Later, Yoon's father asked if he could come with Haeyeon's sister since he had another schedule. He expressed gratitude, apologized, and promised to visit soon. He insisted on giving Doyeon some cash from his wallet, saying he couldn't accept it otherwise. At least Doyeon could take a breather now. Doyeon looked at his phone, thinking although he was concerned about the deleted version, there was no method to pursue it. There was still no news about the game. He remembered his immediate living expenses and exhaustedly thought he would have to go to the police station again, and he would have to work doubly hard for the time he had taken off. Doyeon told Yeon he needed to turn on the broadcast tonight too. He was thinking of getting some rest and asked what Yeon would do. Nervously, Yoon suggested they should sleep for now. Yoon kept her doll on the bed. Do-yeon went to the kitchen to sleep and told Yeon to wake him if anything happened. Yeon said she would rather sleep outside. Do-yeon turned the lights off and went out, saying it was fine. Yoon was the guest. It would be rude to make her uncomfortable. Yoon smiled. He left the door slightly open. Yoon thought this was Do-yeon's way of being considerate. She felt happy. There was a subtle scent of fabric softener. The house was fairly organized. It felt comfortable to Yeon. She wondered when the last time was that she felt such peace. Back then, her friend said something about her boyfriend. Another one said if the girl was going to feel that way, then why was she dating? Then a short-haired girl asked Yeon about the senior she liked. When Yeon said she rejected him because they weren't compatible, it shocked her friends. They asked the reason because the guy was super good looking. Yeon nervously said she still had to study and didn't have time because of her part-time job, and the youngest was going to elementary school now. She needed to get a scholarship. There were many things she wanted to do. Her friend said this was the prettiest time, so she should live life doing things she wanted to do. Just like everyone else, Yoon wanted to date and travel together, so she made a bucket list of things she wanted to do and kept it safe. Yoon believed that if she worked hard and refined herself, someday that effort would shine. Yoon thought she should have tried everything. It felt pointless now. She looked up and saw a graduation album. She went to Do-yeon asking if he was sleeping, and Yoon sat down. Do-yeon was the only one who could see her and had taken her away from the highway. She remembered when her friend asked her type. She replied she wanted a nerdy guy. Someone who didn't have female friends around, had decent muscles, didn't know how to dress up but looked good when he did, was innocent but stupid, and was kind only to her. Someone who was gentle and someone she could lean on. Her friends froze, saying it would be easier to find a unicorn. Yeon touched Do-yeon's head. There was one, he looked better with his bangs up. Yeon thanked him for saving her. Yeon felt bad for only being a burden and receiving help. If she were an ordinary person, she would have repaid Do-yeon somehow. Suddenly, Do-yeon moved his hand. Yeon grew nervous as Do-yeon laid his hand on her. Blushing, Yeon asked Do-yeon if he was sleep-talking. Do-yeon grabbed her hand, saying he needed to get out of there. Do-yeon had a nightmare and begged not to abandon him. Yoon was confused when Do-yeon called Hyo-jeon. Cute girl dating simulation. A girl was crying. The boy understood, but his lingering feelings kept growing. He felt the same way. This was a dating simulation game where you choose the best option based on each character's preference. The boy gently leaned in and started kissing the girl, aiming for a special relationship like dating and marriage. Do-yeon covered his tears while streaming. The viewers asked if he was crying while playing a dating sim. Do-yeon said he just yawned, but they did a great job at the game. They were supposed to play a horror game today. If they kept playing the same genre, everyone would get bored. It was nice to try something different. There was also a chance to study. Yudi donated 10,000 won and asked if Do-yeon was studying romance with a dating sim. When Do-yeon refused, Yoon looked at him, feeling like she was seeing a side of him she had not seen before. After all, they hadn't had much time to talk about each other. Then Yoon wondered what kind of student Do-yeon was and who Kwon Hyo-jeon was. She repeated the name, then Do-yeon ended the stream. Do-yeon apologized, saying it was noisy. But for Yeon, watching the live stream was enjoyable. Then Yeon asked him if it was really that touching that he cried. Do-yeon still said he was yawning. Do-yeon said he had editing work to do and might need to work until late and asked if it was okay with Yeon. Yeon said she would be quiet and that you could think of her as not being there. Even though it might look like it, she could manage fine on her own. Then Do-yeon said he could finish editing quickly and go outside for some fresh air and asked Yeon if there was a place she would like to go. In a hurry, Yeon refused and said she was fine there. Do-yeon said he was just feeling a bit cramped and asked if she would go with him. Yeon looked down. She wanted to see the night sea. It was one of the things on her list. She had wanted to go for a long time. Do-yeon smiled and said he would find a beach for now. Again, the whole situation was posted in the game. Do-yeon was shocked and it provided him with 4 options again. In this dating simulation game, they choose the best option to pursue their target. But the target was someone who had departed, and if they made a mistake, they might be harmed in a terrible way. If Do-yeon kept spending time with Haeon and just followed the available choices, it might be safe. He had been following the choices presented in the game so far. Normally, dating sims only allow them to select from the given choices. But this wasn't a game, it was reality. Do-yeon was lost in his thoughts when Yeon called him. Do-yeon apologized. Yeon asked the reason because he looked troubled. Do-yeon said he was thinking about where to go. If they were going, it was better to look it up first. Yoon was glad it wasn't serious. Do-yeon decided to try something and said it was a bit overwhelming to go all the way to the sea, and asked if they could just see some water nearby. Do-yeon nervously covered his mouth as it ran away again. Choosing something outside the options would get re-evaluated. Do-yeon didn't mean that, but the next option would incur a penalty. Yoon kept looking at him and nervously said the reservoir was good. Yeon's affection level slightly decreased. They went to see it. Yoon was amazed. It turned out better than she expected. Do-yeon was glad to hear that and apologized that it was not the beach. Yeon said just being there was good, and she felt bad for taking Do-yeon's time when he was busy. Since they were there, Yeon asked Do-yeon if they should walk a bit further. Do-yeon followed the choice option just in case, but he was glad it seemed to be okay. Not choosing an option made words slip out. While looking at the water, Do-yeon thought if it was really a game, what would happen to Yeon when the game was over. While walking, Yeon asked Doyeon his age and she learned he was 24. Then Yoon said when she left the world she was 22, so they were the same age now, and asked how she should refer to Doyeon in this situation. Doyeon said it was enough just as they were, it might feel awkward to change things suddenly. Doyeon realized they didn't know much about each other, so he asked Yeon what she used to do. Yeon asked him what he thought. Yoon was amazed when Doyeon said college student. Yoon said Doyeon was surprisingly astute. Doyeon said usually their age group would either be students or doing part-time jobs. Then Yoon mentioned she was a top student on scholarships. Doyeon said she didn't look like it. Yeon questioned what he meant. Doyeon nervously changed the topic, saying he meant the atmosphere didn't seem quite right. Doyeon said Yeon was so pretty that it kept Yeon's attention, and she smiled. Then Yeon asked him if he went around charming girls with that innocent look. Doyeon started clarifying himself, saying he just thought Yeon was pretty as she was. Then Yeon asked him if he hugged her last night. Nervously, Doyeon said that was sleep-talking. Yoon teased Doyeon as his face was red. Yoon was enjoying the view. Doyeon thought even though Yoon showed up out of nowhere, he felt okay with this. The joy of being with someone and a sense of relief. Maybe downloading this game wasn't such a bad idea. Yoon wanted to ask something. It was not serious. Lighting occurred while Yeon said she saw the graduation album. Doyeon grew nervous because Yeon disappeared. Nervously, Doyeon thought she ran into the highway again. Shocked, Doyeon checked his phone. The game had successfully match-made. Doyeon grew afraid. The game suggested that if he didn't want to date her, he should exit the location. The ghost's affection level was despair. Traumatized, Doyeon fell down. The ghost appeared from behind. Doyeon was nervous. He fell down when the ghost attacked him. Yoon kept asking if he was okay, but Doyeon couldn't see her. Yoon tried to make him look at her, but Yoon couldn't even touch him. Yoon realized she was disappearing. Doyeon was afraid to see another character. He started calming himself, thinking that just like with Haeyeon, they could talk. Doyeon moved his hand back to grab his phone, but when he looked back, he grew nervous. The ghost's head grabbed his hand. Doyeon started shaking his hand and threw the head away. Doyeon ran. This was beyond what he could handle. For a coward like him, that was too much. As they said, anyone could leave if they didn't want the date. He didn't know where Yeon had suddenly disappeared to, but he would just get out of there and find her later. The ghost's hair pushed his foot and he fell down. Doyeon's choice significantly decreased her affection level. Her affection level changed from despair to hatred. Doyeon had to get out of there immediately. Doyeon nervously apologized as he was scared and tried to calm her down, but the ghost pushed him into the water. Under the water, Doyeon tried his best to escape. His throat started hurting. Even though he knew he was surrounded by water, his instincts made him breathe. Water rushed into his lungs. The pain felt like his throat was going to burst. He wished he could just exit quickly. He kept praying for that, and he finally departed. Then he got reincarnated. Tears came into his eyes, and he fell down and fearfully started vomiting the water. He thought it might be okay to be with Yeon like this. The feelings were slowly building up. The ghost appeared again. Crying, Doyeon realized other characters could show up at any time. He took her phone and saw his information. Doyeon was dying from fear. The situation was posted in the game, and it suggested 4 options. Doyeon thought running away would only lead to dying again without meaning. It was better to try to communicate there. He was confused about which part he should talk to, the head or the body. Scared, Doyeon decided to peel off the tape first. He took it slow for now. He pushed himself and chose the second option to talk to her. Afraid, Doyeon didn't know the backstory but asked if she wanted help. First, he needed to reassure her. Deep inside, he was dying from her quietness. Then the ghost started crying. Doyeon kept staring at her. Then Doyeon wiped her tears and asked if she was okay. The ghost started crying even more. Options appeared again in the game. Doyeon was nervous. This was the 3rd time he had departed. He was becoming numb to the fear of exiting repeatedly, or it was curiosity overcoming his fear. Doyeon lifted her head. He was wondering about her situation because she was in a state of distress and put it back on her body. His choice significantly increased the affection level. Her state started stabilizing. The girl asked him while crying to get her out of there. The midnight date concluded. Doyeon froze. The game measured their romantic score. They gained 80 points. A death penalty was applied once. Their romance rank was B. Doyeon felt relieved despite the lingering unease. The second date with her had come to an end. Yoon was standing behind Doyeon, and she was crying. Back when Doyeon reincarnated, Yoon was worried. She tried to calm him down. Yoon reached out to touch him, but her hand passed through. She got shocked. She kept trying to touch him, but she couldn't. It was all happening suddenly. Doyeon couldn't even hear her. This made Yoon more shocked. When she saw Doyeon do something, she knew there would be a parting someday. Yoon tried to ask him if he was talking to that black thing, thinking it was also a spiritual being. Yoon felt bad. After all, she was departed and Doyeon was alive. Through Yoon's vision, Doyeon lifted the half-black thing and walked away. As time passed, Yoon kept losing herself walking on the road instinctively. The person who reached out to her during that time, it was enjoyable. She was grateful. Yoon felt supported so much that she loathed herself for being a burden. Even after meeting her family, she still wanted to remain on this side a bit longer. Yoon grew nervous knowing she was no longer visible. Yoon forced herself to stand up as she didn't want to bid farewell without saying anything. She sorrowfully looked back at Do-yeon. Do-yeon was heading toward the black thing. When Yeon saw it, she grew nervous. Then she tried to stop Do-yeon, as it looked dangerous. She tried to run, but suddenly she thought she was also like that being. She should not be by Do-yeon's side either. Yoon was confused about what to do. She knew the truth. She was being greedy. Yoon was crying. Then suddenly her name was called. It was Do-yeon looking at her. He grabbed her shoulders and asked where she had gone, and now she was back. Do-yeon thought Yeon had disappeared. Do-yeon asked her why she was crying. Yoon knew it was dangerous. She smiled terrifiedly, thinking this shouldn't be happening, but she was feeling greedy. Yoon pushed Do-yeon back and asked if he was scared of her. Do-yeon was confused. Then he said he wasn't particularly scared. In fact, he felt more scared when Yoon wasn't next to him. Then Do-yeon asked if he should have been scared. Yoon was turning terrifying. Then she refused and said she was departed and Do-yeon had a life. If it wasn't okay for her to be by Do-yeon's side, if she was a burden, then she would do it on her own without causing any trouble. She felt it when Do-yeon said he needed her. He couldn't explain it in detail, but Do-yeon needed Yoon's help to resolve his ghostly issues. Do-yeon offered Yoon his hand. It seemed like they both had a lot to say, so they should talk while they returned. Although the end of this story seemed predetermined, she held his hand, thinking that right now it was okay to be a little greedy. Then they returned back. A weasel appeared from behind and shrieked. They were heading home. Yoon was nervous as Do-yeon had told her a headless woman asked for help. Do-yeon asked Yeon if she saw her too. Yeon sadly replied she saw her, but she just appeared as a lump, so she couldn't tell any details, and it seemed like Do-yeon was trying to reassure her. Yoon asked Do-yeon if he was scared because she was afraid too, but when a departed person suddenly appeared in front of her, it was only natural to be scared. Do-yeon explained that a bizarre head was crawling around, and when he tried to run away, there was a body without a head behind him. Also, he was worried Yeon might have disappeared onto the highway again. For Do-yeon, it was really scary when Yeon disappeared, but he felt relieved after seeing her. Yoon got happy, and then she said earlier Do-yeon mentioned needing her help, and Yoon wanted to know it. Do-yeon said it was a bit hard to explain right now. The sun started rising, and Yoon grew more curious. She eagerly wanted to help Do-yeon, but Do-yeon would tell her later when there would be a chance. While driving, Do-yeon started thinking about the ghost. The tape was wrapped all over her body. Wounds appeared to be cut here and there, and a severed head and torso. It might be something similar to the disturbing crime cases Do-yeon had seen in the news. If he got involved, it might actually become dangerous. However, he couldn't turn away from someone who had asked for help. Being fearful would make them even more miserable. Do-yeon could not even manage his own life. Yoon asked if Do-yeon was lost in his thoughts because of the person he mentioned earlier. Do-yeon agreed. Then Yoon happily said he was too kind. Being steadfast could be both a strength and a weakness. Do-yeon had a personality that tended to harm himself. Do-yeon was confused. Then Yoon said he should not worry about a suddenly appeared ghost. It was okay not to do what Do-yeon didn't want to do. The most important thing was taking care of himself. That was something no one could dispute. Yoon said it might sound strange coming from someone who had been sated by his warmth, and told Do-yeon not to try to shoulder everything alone. Yoon suggested that if he believed in something, he should pursue it, and if it got hard, run away. Do-yeon could be a little more honest with his feelings. As there were still life points left, it was scary. But if Do-yeon could pull someone out of hell with his help, that was worth a try. If there was a god, he would surely give him a stroke of luck for all this hardship. They reached home. When Do-yeon entered, he grew nervous. The landlady was there, saying she was raising the rent and management fees because prices had gone up a lot. Everyone around her was raising their prices too. She had been patient enough. Do-yeon nervously said that was way too expensive and sudden. The landlady said everything had been going up these days. Do-yeon just didn't know. Then she warned Do-yeon that if the amount didn't match, he would have to look for another place. It was already going to be hard for Do-yeon starting this month. He asked her to give him a little more time. This made the landlady feel like the bad guy. For this month, Do-yeon could pay like before, but from next month onward, he had to adjust. While leaving, the landlady suggested Do-yeon find a decent job because men grow outside. She said the internet was ruining today's kids. Then she left. Yoon was angry about the sudden raise in rent and her tone. But Do-yeon was helpless. He couldn't do anything. Then Do-yeon said at this rate, he might get kicked out. Do-yeon saw a job listing post, then he contacted them, saying he can also do ad editing, and Do-yeon said he'll send them a different portfolio. Do-yeon hung up while thanking them. Yoon was stressful too, so she told Do-yeon to contact her father because Yoon had saved up some money too. Do-yeon refused and appreciated her kindness, as it was his job. Stressed, Do-yeon said he had managed somehow until now. Do-yeon wore his jacket and said he'll step out to the convenience store for a bit. Then he left. Yoon felt useless. Outside the convenience store, it was raining. The cashier gave him a 2+1 deal. The cashier handed him the things and the bill was 8,500 won. Leaving the store, Do-yeon was amazed as it was a close call. Do-yeon guessed he can manage until this month. Lifting the polythene bag as he brought 3 cup noodles and 1 instant rice, Do-yeon said Yeon didn't have to worry about food costs. Do-yeon thought to ask help from his mom, but then he remembered his mom terrifyingly looking at him, as Do-yeon had involved other people too. Wounded, Do-yeon told her to leave Hyo-jong alone. As he informed earlier, they were just friends. He was so embarrassed by his mom. Do-yeon sadly thought he can't ask for help after everything. He even has to go to the police station tomorrow for an additional investigation. Their new date was starting soon. Do-yeon decided to deal with what's in front of him first. He can think about the worries after he finishes the task. While walking, Do-yeon thought he can do a same-day part-time job. He had managed to hold on all by himself until now. Back home, Do-yeon was streaming. They had lost a game. And Do-yeon said it wasn't that he couldn't do it. It was hard to win because their opponent's top had 10 kills. Yoon looked at the clock as it was already 9 p.m. Do-yeon hasn't slept at all from editing, and the broadcast was coming up. Yoon was worried about Do-yeon. On the other side, Do-yeon said it was just bad luck, not about skill. Even though he may seem like this, he received scholarships when he was in school. He has a decent head on his shoulders. It was just his condition wasn't good today. Then Do-yeon said they should stop the game there for now. Yoon walked into the kitchen. She saw the noodle cups, thinking Do-yeon could barely survive the whole day on just a cup noodle. At this rate, he was going to break down. Yeon sadly thought if she could at least freely interact with objects, she could help in some way. She went near the stove, she tried hard to lift the pan, and the pan slightly moved. Yoon was shocked. She tried again, but failed. While looking at the pan, Yoon thought it depends on the weight. She felt okay as long as she focused until the last moment, but she can't even lift a frying pan as she wished. Yoon thought if she had a body, if she were alive, she could have helped Do-yeon more. She started concentrating, believing if she practiced, she'll manage. Mon asked Do-yeon if he had reached Sung-jae. Do-yeon fell silent and said he didn't know either. He tried reaching out and visiting, but he couldn't meet him. Do-yeon thought since then he tried contacting Sung-jae consistently, but he hasn't responded. Now he could only hope he's safe. The viewers were worried about Sung-jae. But then Damon mentioned the news about a woman who had been found in the nearby mountains. Then Ji-jung agreed and mentioned they said a departed ghost appeared and told them where they left the world. Damon said they were the real murderers. Do-yeon grew nervous when he saw the file posted on the internet. Then Do-yeon nervously checked the comments. He read the false comments and felt depressed. He wasn't aware of the situation. Do-yeon thought he was questioned for over an hour. There wasn't any talk about this kind of thing when he was being investigated at the police station. The viewers grew confused by Do-yeon's reaction. Afraid, Do-yeon thought there was still an additional investigation left. He thought he was going to be wrongly accused. Thinking about his personal information, Do-yeon was confused if people would believe him when he tells them the truth. Manga walked in and pointed a spoon, shouting Do-yeon. When Do-yeon turned, Yoon said she possessed Manga. Do-yeon was shocked to see her. The viewers were asking Do-yeon why the doll moved. Then the camera caught Yoon's eyes. She felt nervous and fell down. The viewers asked if it was a hidden prank. Do-yeon, in a hurry, raised his hand to the camera and ended the broadcast. Yi realized she messed up. Yoon apologized as she didn't mean for this to happen. She just wanted to be of some help. Do-yeon smiled and lifted Yoon as he found it funny. Even though Yoon was going through so much more than Do-yeon was, she was trying so hard for him. Then Do-yeon thanked her and said he had been wrapped up in his own worries all alone. And he had such a dependable ally right beside him. It made Do-yeon's head feel clearer. Yoon said there was a bit of a problem and asked if Do-yeon can consult with her together. Do-yeon agreed. Do-yeon wondered how long it had been since he asked for help from others. Then they left in the rain. While walking together under an umbrella, Yoon found amazing. Then she asked Do-yeon if he was okay. Do-yeon said he'll work it out somehow. He can't ignore someone asking for help, leaving it as it was just felt uneasy to Do-yeon. He said he can't help but be overly concerned and told Yoon to wait at home. Yoon came near him and grabbed his arm because she didn't want to get wet. Then Yoon said they should go to the car and sit there. Do-yeon blushed and agreed. They walked to the car. Yoon asked Do-yeon if the ghost he was going to meet was pretty. Scene shifted. There was a mess on the table. A man was drinking while standing next to the mirror, then he allowed someone to enter. The guard had looked into it. The guard gave him Do-yeon's personal information and there didn't seem to be anything particularly special about him. But apparently he accurately found the body by claiming a ghost told him. They already knew the identity of the woman. Moreover, according to insiders, they said the doll flew right in front of their eyes. It made the guy shocked. The guards said it was hard to believe, but everyone present at the scene saw it. The guy took the cigarette, and it turned out he was the man who evicted Yoon. The guy ordered his guard to give their advertisement to Do-yeon and ask him to come. The guy was curious if it was true. It was still pouring. Yoon said sitting in the car on a rainy day reminds her of the first time they met. Yoon said at first she thought it was a dream. At that time, when she was pushed to her limit and ready to give up everything, Do-yeon saved her. The ghost needed help as much as Yoon did, just like Yoon was saved by being with Do-yeon right now. Yoon told Do-yeon not to overdo it. Do-yeon was clueless. Do-yeon said he had been thinking about that for the past few days. He felt lucky that the first ghost he met was her. It made Yoon blush when Do-yeon said their first meeting was a bit chilly, but now it felt like he would be empty without Yoon. Yoon scolded him for not answering her question earlier and asked if the ghost was pretty. Yoon said Do-yeon brushed it off when she asked earlier, Then she asked the question again. Do-yeon was confused. Then he said Haeyeon was the prettiest person he had ever seen. Yoon felt happy. Her favorability increased significantly. Yoon happily believed him. Do-yeon blushed, then he nervously looked at Yeon, hoping that was a good answer because she looked happy. Do-yeon chatted with her and organized his thoughts. If things escalate, he has decided to ask her father for help. When Do-yeon explained the situation, he readily agreed to assist. If the victim's family comes forward, they might avoid the worst-case scenario. If the perpetrator was caught, the case would be closed. Using the magnifying glass item or still unlocked items, his priority was to catch the perpetrator, who evicted her. Since his LP had been gradually building while being with Yeon, he should be able to check new items once this date was over. Even a live broadcast can lead to good publicity if he plays it down appropriately. The GPS informed them they have arrived at their destination. Do-yeon thought it was okay. The GPS ended the guidance. Thinking of it as a game, Do-yeon was good at games. After this, Yoon held Do-yeon's arm under the umbrella. While walking downstairs, Yeon asked Do-yeon if he was okay and they can just turn back. Do-yeon said he's fine. He nervously said he can do this because he had been practicing the simulation too. Do-yeon told Yeon not to worry. Yoon was afraid. Yoon knew how much Do-yeon has suffered, and she understood how tormenting it must be for him. Even so, she secretly hoped he wouldn't feel that way. Yoon thought she was so awful. Then she told Do-yeon she had made up her mind. She needed to be confident. If they turn back, they'll just keep worrying. Then she said to help her out and settle this. Do-yeon was nervous. Lightning occurred and Yoon said it would be better to turn back. Do-yeon grew nervous as Yeon disappeared again. The second midnight date began. Yoon can see Do-yeon, but he can't see her. Do-yeon was feeling a bit uneasy. Then he walked forward, thinking that if a ghost's energy was strong, the weaker energy became indistinct. This was just information Do-yeon read online, so it might not be entirely accurate. The ghost's favorability was normal. Do-yeon thought no matter how much courage it got, he absolutely must not run away or deny her. The ghost appeared with her head. Do-yeon needed to gather as much information as he can through conversation. Do-yeon put the umbrella over her and greeted her. Then Do-yeon asked her if she remembers him because they met yesterday. It seemed like she needed help. Do-yeon asked her what was going on. The midnight date began. The rain was pouring. Do-yeon was nervous about what to say. Deep inside, Do-yeon was crying as it felt like deja vu. Do-yeon thought ghosts usually react a bit slowly. He checked his phone as options should be appearing there. The date was still underway. He calmed himself and thought to start a conversation. Do-yeon looked back to see her head. It used to appear with her before. There was no head, so they can't have a conversation. Nervously, Do-yeon asked if her head had come with her. The ghost pointed to her head. Do-yeon looked at it. Then Do-yeon asked it if it remembers him. Do-yeon walked to it. He wanted to hear about her situation, so he asked for a chat, but the head started escaping. Do-yeon was confused as the head hid beside the pillar. Do-yeon gave the umbrella to the ghost to hold for a second. Then Do-yeon started walking to it while asking for a conversation, but the head was still escaping. Do-yeon said he just wanted to understand the situation and help. Do-yeon was afraid. It was clearly avoiding him. Do-yeon thought he had made a mistake. The ghost's head jumped outside the bridge. Do-yeon was confused why it was running away. Then the situation got posted. Options also appeared. Do-yeon learned she was running away because she was shy. Do-yeon decided to choose the second option, but the next choice penalty was activated. The options updated. Do-yeon grew nervous to see the options. Do-yeon wasn't aware of the penalty options. Then he remembered it could be from his recent mistake. These choices seemed to be lacking any common sense. Whatever he picked, it was just the worst. The time started passing. He had no choice. He went back as if he irritated the options again. He didn't know what penalty might occur. In this situation, he can only choose the lesser evil. The ghost fell silent when Do-yeon said it's her last chance. Do-yeon grabbed her body and said if she doesn't come now, he'll just take her body with him. He can't do anything if she didn't come. Do-yeon chose the last option. He nervously said this wasn't too bad either. The ghost's head was staring at him. Do-yeon was afraid, thinking he should smooth things over as the ghost was already angry. He wasn't supposed to do anything with these choices. He decided to apologize to try to smooth things over. Then Do-yeon nervously said he was just trying to lighten the mood with a joke. The ghost felt embarrassed. Her favorability increased slightly. Do-yeon was confused as her favorability went up, not down. The head came towards Do-yeon. Then Do-yeon put her head on her body and asked her if she was okay. The ghost said something. Do-yeon nervously listened to her. Tears were in the ghost's eyes and she said trash. Confused, Do-yeon nervously fell silent. The scene shifted to Yeon. She said it would be better to wait than to be next to Do-yeon. She wondered if Do-yeon was doing well. The ghost was nervous. She made Do-yeon more confused when she said what was going to happen now. Do-yeon asked her what she meant, saying he just wanted help. The ghost grew afraid and said if there was a condition for helping, Do-yeon must be thinking of asking for something. The ghost reminded him that earlier he said her body would be enough. Do-yeon froze and shouted that he was just joking to lighten the mood. He genuinely wanted help. The ghost said it was okay. She knew there was no such thing as an act of kindness without a reason. She'll do whatever she can. So she asked for help to get out of there. Do-yeon felt the same feeling again that he had with Haeyeon. It made Do-yeon furious thinking about what she had gone through to have such an expression and say such things. Do-yeon picked up the umbrella and said that since he heard the request for help yesterday, he had been worried about it constantly. He told her not to worry because he wanted to help as much as was within reach. Do-yeon thought, what sin did these people commit to have to suffer like this? Then Do-yeon put the umbrella over her and kindly asked why she avoided him, because Do-yeon needed to know the situation to help. The ghost felt sad when Do-yeon mentioned only the parts she could share. She'd embarrassedly cried and said she was scared Do-yeon would run away when he saw her. Crawling around with just a head, even she found it disgusting. If the only person who showed up ran away, then she would really go insane. She wouldn't be able to endure it anymore. She was too scared to approach and just felt fear. Do-yeon was shocked and remembered that was the reason she grabbed his foot. Do-yeon apologized. When the ghost asked for what, Do-yeon changed the topic as he was talking to himself. He introduced himself to her and asked the ghost her name. Her name was Kang Sion, someone who had been endlessly waiting for a helping hand to appear. Do-yeon said he wasn't doing this with any ulterior motive. He might look like this, but he didn't lie. Do-yeon said he was going to save her, so she didn't need to be anxious or look at him with suspicion. What Sion needed to hear was just a single word promising to save her. Sion was shocked, and Do-yeon said that should be enough. Sion hesitated and asked if she could trust him. Do-yeon nervously said he might not seem reliable. It was true he wasn't great, but Do-yeon promised. Sion turned to him and hugged him. Do-yeon was shocked. Sion openly cried. Do-yeon felt bad and held her head. He looked up as the night was about to end. Do-yeon wiped her tears. Sion blushed, then Do-yeon apologized because it must be hard for her to wipe the tears alone. Sion thanked him. Then Sion apologized. Do-yeon said there was a pavilion ahead, so they should move there. It was getting chilly being in the rain. Sion agreed. Do-yeon nervously looked at her. They headed forward, and Do-yeon asked if the tape was comfortable, and also asked if he could take it off for her. Sion was shy, and then she said if Do-yeon could help her with that, she would appreciate it. It was actually kind of suffocating. Do-yeon started finding the end of the tape. It was dark, so he couldn't see well. It wasn't on Sion's back. Sion felt shy as Do-yeon found it. Then Do-yeon grew nervous. He said the end of the tape was near Sion's chest, so they should just leave it. Sion shyly looked down and said if Do-yeon was okay with it, then she was fine. So she asked him to help. First, Do-yeon told her to take it off by herself. Then Do-yeon decided to take it off because it would be rude to hesitate with personal thoughts right now. Do-yeon said he'll try to remove it as carefully as possible. He had to put his private feelings aside. Yeon came from behind and was shocked. She called Do-yeon. Then they both turned. Yeon asked him what he was doing. The scene shifted to the police station. Yeon-chil was checking the scene details. Someone came and asked for coffee. Yeon-chil asked if the guy was going to pay, but the guy said seniors were supposed to pay. That was a stereotype, man. Yeon-chil told the guy not to wear his jacket as it didn't suit him. Outside, they threw the coffee cups in the dustbin. The guy said the detective seemed busy these days and asked if everything was okay. The detective said he wished he had two bodies and thanked the reporters for having a field day. The pressure from above kept mounting, and it was driving him crazy. The guy asked why the detective was so fixated on that case. He had heard from him that their team took on this case because of the detective's input. It was already a noisy case. If it went wrong, it would be a real headache. Plus, the guy heard the first suspect among the suspects should be excluded. The detective said innocent people shouldn't be made into the perp. At least someone who was there at the scene should help out. The guy was confused. Then the detective said the true culprit was someone else. When he checked, they said he was in the military at the time, with no leave or absence recorded. Considering what the victim told them about their identity and the situation, everything lined up perfectly. The guy said he had a strong suspicion this case would lead to some big revelations. The guy reminded him of the doll and showed the phone, asking if that was the doll. Then the guy said earlier during Do-yeon's live broadcast, a doll was seen moving. The whole scene was streamed live. Everyone was dismissing it as a clickbait video, but he did hear a female voice. The guy said the victim might have possessed the doll, but the detective couldn't believe this even after seeing it. Izam got a call from Don Won. He answered the call and said he was there with his senior. The detective asked him what was going on. Izam informed him that they said a luggage case had washed up at the reservoir and there was a person's head inside. The detective grew nervous. The scene shifted to Do-yeon. He introduced Yeon to Sion and then introduced Sion to Yeon. Sion hid behind Do-yeon and greeted Yeon. Yeon fell silent, then greeted back. Do-yeon got stuck between them. He was nervously thinking about this suffocating awkwardness. It was like chills running through his whole body. He saw Yoon feeling uncomfortable. Do-yeon thought she was shy. Then he decided to lighten the mood with conversation. Then Do-yeon asked Sion her age. Sion shyly said 21 and asked Do-yeon his too. Do-yeon said he was 24. They were talking, and it made Yeon angry. She walked forward, saying whatever Do-yeon was doing, she couldn't really interfere. She pushed them back as it seemed the two had gotten pretty close somehow. Then Yeon asked if Do-yeon was just taking off the tape. Do-yeon nervously nodded. He only wanted to help because it looked uncomfortable. Then Yeon looked at her. It made Sion nervous when Yeon said it would be better if she took it off. Then Yeon roughly started taking it off. Do-yeon nervously stared at them as it was hurting Sayan. Then, a jealous Yeon apologized because it wasn't coming off easily. Do-yeon thought it seemed like ghosts could freely touch things. Do-yeon remembered the recent moment and thought he had never seen Haeon look like that before. He was a bit scared, but in the end, it was for the best. He didn't know why he was suddenly seeing her again, but for now, Sayan had joined and the targets were doubled. In a typical dating sim, they pick one target to pursue and finish. Sayan told Yeon she could handle the rest. Do-yeon thought this game wasn't just about romance, it also involved freeing spirits from their lingering regrets so they could find peace. If a spirit's regret remained unresolved, what would happen to those who weren't chosen? The tape started burning. Yeon asked Sayan what she thought. Sayan thanked her and said she would be okay with that. Yeon came close to her, saying her skin was so pale like a baby. Sayan said Yeon was pretty too. They both looked at Do-yeon when he asked Sayan what had happened. They couldn't stay there forever, and he needed to understand the situation if he was going to help Sayan. Yeon grew nervous. Sayan apologized for the inconvenience and said there was a place she really wanted to go before then. Sayan asked for help. They left for the destination. Sayan apologized for asking so suddenly and said she would repay Do-yeon somehow. The place they were heading to was where Sayan used to live. Yeon turned back and asked if Sayan was going to meet her family. Sayan refused and said she used to live with her grandmother, but she had left the world. Sayan sorrowfully said that house was the last refuge her grandmother left her. It was also where Sayan departed. Then Yeon asked her what had happened. Sayan grew nervous as she remembered the moment she was lying on the floor. She said she did not mean to go this far and that she was the one at fault. A guy terrifyingly asked for her grandmother's bank account password. Then Sayan said it wasn't a pleasant story. It would be okay if she didn't talk about it. As Yeon and Do-yeon seemed very close, Sayan asked about their relationship. Yoon grew nervous. Do-yeon nervously said they ended up together somehow. Do-yeon grew more nervous when he checked the phone. The game needed Do-yeon's response to what exactly they were to each other. Based on his response, the mutual feelings between the two characters would change. The scene shifted. The shopkeeper was looking at Sayan's card and asked the girl if she was really her because she looked different. The girl grew furious when the shopkeeper said she couldn't sell to her. The girl started pointing at the molds, saying she had just gained weight. She took the card back, saying she would buy it somewhere else. She left the store angrily, saying that just because she gained some weight, the shopkeeper didn't believe her. She walked away, saying she wasn't impersonating someone.